A woman who took the life of her infant son in 1986 in Connecticut and went on with her life as if nothing happened has remained unknown for more than 3 decades. DNA testing finally linked her to the case. On May 16, 1986, an infant was found dead in a garbage truck after sanitation workers emptied a dumpster in Greenwich, Connecticut. The baby boy was referred to as Baby John. The medical examiner determined that the baby boy was strangled shortly after being born. Despite investigation, no arrests were made and the case went cold. In 2019, more than 3 decades later, the police announced new DNA techniques would be used to try to solve the case. They offered a $20,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction. The following year in 2020, the Greenwich police reactivated the case using advanced DNA techniques. Evidence that was found at the crime scene has been linked to 65-year-old Janita Phillips. The investigators collected genetic material from Phillips's home trash at her Lake Mary, Florida residence. Testing identified her and her husband as the infant's parents. Phillips lived at the apartment building where the infant was found in the dumpster. She and her family moved to Florida shortly after the baby's life was ended. In late 2021, Phillips turned herself in to the Greenwich authorities. She was arrested and charged with murder. Initially, she denied involvement, but later confessed during a videotaped interview. When Phillips ended the boy's life, she and her husband had just moved into an apartment in Greenwich with their eldest child after being homeless. Her husband had told her he did not want another baby. The couple, who remained together and have been married for 42 years, were stressed about money and their ability to feed their family. Phillips told the police that she hid the pregnancy from her husband and other relatives. The police said that her husband did not know about the baby's death and had no involvement. Phillips and her husband have 3 children who are now adults. One of their sons is disabled and resides at an assisted living facility, while her husband has medical problems and she takes care of him. In October 2024, her attorney Stephen Dio proposed using an extreme emotional disturbance defense, citing psychological duress at the time of the incident. The claim was grounded in Connecticut law, which permits reduced charges under such circumstances. In February 2025, a plea deal was offered and deliberated, with the defense requesting that the court consider her mental state at the time of the crime. The disposition hearing was initially delayed to allow the judge time to review psychological evaluations and other submissions. On April 24th, she pleaded guilty in Superior Court to first-degree manslaughter. In July, as part of the plea arrangement, the original 20-year sentence was fully suspended. She received 5 years of probation. Dio said incarcerating her would serve no purpose at this time, adding that this case was Phillips's only brush with the law in her life. He also said that she lost her insurance industry job because of the case. 65-year-old Phillips expressed deep remorse in court and took full responsibility for her actions. It was highlighted that if Phillips violates her probation, she could face up to 20 years in prison. A loyalty card from a local supermarket has helped the Acco police in Florida solve a cold case that remained unsolved for over a decade. In 2016, construction workers and a passing motorist came across skeletal remains in a patch of overgrowth off the Florida Turnpike near Acco, west of Orlando, Florida. With the bones lay a set of keys attached to 2 worn store loyalty cards. The find was logged as an unidentified John Doe case. The investigators could not immediately match the remains to any missing person. The DNA was badly degraded and there was nothing conclusive to go on. The bones were carefully stored. The case remained open but with little movement. 9 years later in 2025, the Acco police working with forensic specialists revisited the evidence. Retired Detective Michelle Grogan re-examined the keys. Those cheap plastic tags that had been overlooked for years turned out to be the key literally. The re-examining of the evidence determined that the remains belonged to a Jamaican man, specifically to the St. Mary region. Detective Michelle Grogan was given 3 potential relatives. A break in the case that came from an unexpected clue, a Winn-Dixie loyalty card. Investigators traced the loyalty card numbers back to an account and a name Lloyd P. Williams, missing since 2013. Detective Grogan was able to contact the man's son, who provided a DNA sample to confirm his identity. DNA and dental comparisons confirmed it. After 12 years, the John Doe had a name. In August 2025, the police announced to the public that the remains were those of Lloyd. On March 14, 2013, in a quiet Orlando neighborhood, the normal rhythms of life slipped into something darker. Neighbors on Bluedick Drive noticed the back door of 89-year-old Lloyd's home was standing open. Lloyd, a retired man who valued his independence, was not outside tending to his yard or chatting on the porch as usual. When his family members went to check, they found his house ransacked, belongings out of place, and Lloyd nowhere to be found. A missing person report was filed. His son flew in from out of town, urging the police to search harder. At first, there were whispers of a robbery gone wrong, maybe even foul play, but there were no witnesses, no surveillance footage, and no clear sign of how he vanished. For weeks, the volunteers searched the area, but they got no leads and the case grew cold. His son described the emotional toll of not knowing his father's fate. He said, "At night you keep thinking, where is he? It is a mystery, no trace." For his family, there was relief in finally knowing, but no closure in the bigger questions. How did he end up miles away from home? Was his disappearance linked to a burglary or something more sinister? Was his death natural, or did someone silence him? The cause and manner of death remain undetermined. The medical examiner has officially labeled his death as suspicious. Justice remains uncertain, but for his loved ones, at least the long years of not knowing where he was has ended. After nearly 29 years since the disappearance of an 11-year-old girl, her family and community finally have some answers. On the morning of August 21, 1996, 11-year-old Trudy Appleby stood in her driveway in Moline, Illinois. Her father had just left for work, thinking his little girl would spend the day safely at home. But Trudy had her own plans. It is said that she had asked to go swimming with a friend at Campbell's Island, but her father said no. She had packed a swimsuit and towel, excited about the swim, even though her father had told her no. The police said that phone records from that day indicated that she may have gone. She left behind over $200 in cash she had been saving, a sign that she expected to be back soon. Neighbors later recalled seeing a gray or silver four-door car, possibly a Chevrolet Celebrity, pull up. A young man with shoulder-length curly hair and a baseball cap was at the wheel. Trudy climbed in. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. Her disappearance stunned the community. An Amber Alert system did not yet exist, but flyers, news coverage, and vigils kept her face in the public eye. The detectives combed the area, scoured leads, and questioned her family. Despite intense efforts, the trail grew cold. For 2 decades, Trudy's family clung to hope. Every year, they held candlelight vigils, refusing to let her memory fade. Then, in 2017, the investigators revealed a breakthrough. They named William Ed Smith, a longtime family acquaintance, as a person of interest. He owned a car matching the witness description and was reportedly seen with Trudy around the time she vanished. The detectives searched his property in nearby Campbell's Island, but no trace of Trudy was ever found. Smith passed away without facing charges. The case did not end there. The authorities turned their attention to others in Smith's circle. By 2020, 2 more names emerged: David Whipple, Smith's son-in-law and a registered offender, and Jameson Fisher, another associate. The investigators believed that both men had knowledge of what happened to Trudy, perhaps even direct involvement. Whipple passed away in 2022, but Fisher remained under scrutiny. Over the years, the investigators seized a boat thought to contain forensic evidence, searched countless locations, and put up billboards asking witnesses to come forward. The police dug up a backyard in Kelowna in 2023 in connection to Trudy's disappearance. Still, no remains surfaced. Yet the police insisted the investigation was active, gathering threads of evidence, testimony, and long-buried secrets. Finally, in August 2025, nearly 29 years after Trudy vanished, the case reached a turning point. A grand jury charged 50-year-old Jameson Fisher on 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of concealment of a death. The officials said that due to a statute of limitations, they are not able to charge Fisher with kidnapping in Henry County. The authorities said that they believed Trudy had been inappropriately assaulted, murdered, and dumped somewhere. Fisher has always denied his involvement. He is currently in the custody of the Scott County Sheriff's Office for a probation violation where he will remain for further court proceedings. Though Trudy's body has never been found, the prosecutors believe they can finally prove what her family has feared all along. Her life was ended the day she disappeared. For her loved ones, the arrest brought both relief and grief. Relief that someone may finally be held accountable, grief that Trudy never came home. Her case stands as a haunting reminder that even after decades, the truth has a way of rising, carried by persistence, memory, and the determination of a community unwilling to let a child's voice be silenced. An elderly couple from Chatsworth, Georgia has been arrested in connection with a cold case that happened more than 2 decades ago, where the body of a man was found inside his truck at a Wendy's parking lot in Adairsville, Georgia. On March 10, 2001, at around 7:04 p.m., the authorities responded to a call about a suspicious vehicle at the Wendy's parking lot in Adairsville, Georgia. When they arrived at the scene, they found 51-year-old Travis Silvers's body wrapped in a comforter, and it was lying on the passenger side of his 1978 Ford pickup. It appeared that he had been shot in the head and was left there intentionally to be found. No weapon was found inside the truck. Lieutenant Larry Malin of the Adairsville Police Department stated that there was no gunpowder residue or bullet damage to the cab. This suggested that Travis was not shot at close range inside the truck. An autopsy was conducted by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Crime Lab in Atlanta. Additional investigation details were not publicly released at the time to avoid compromising the case. The case went cold but remained under investigation for 24 years. In April 2025, a stunning development was made in the case. The GBI arrested 2 suspects, 74-year-old Gary Fowler and 73-year-old Mary Fowler of Chatsworth, Georgia. They were arrested on April 11th, approximately 34 miles from Adairsville. Both were charged with the death of Travis Silvers. Information regarding how the authorities connected the Fowlers to the case or whether they knew Travis has not yet been released. No bond had been set for the couple, and online records do not currently display an attorney representing either of the Fowlers. The investigation remains active and ongoing. Nearly 5 decades after a 20-year-old woman's life was ended, her case has finally been closed. In December 1978, 20-year-old Deanna Kuhn's life was tragically ended in West Lynn, Oregon. The case remained unsolved for 46 years. In a 2025 cold case review, law enforcement uncovered a critical piece of evidence that had never been tested for DNA. When submitted to the Oregon State Police Crime Lab, the DNA matched a person of interest, David Lawrence Atkinson. Atkinson had previously been identified as a suspect, but had never been confirmed due to lack of testing. He passed away in 1989. The investigators strongly believe that if he was still alive, he would have been charged, tried, and convicted for aggravated murder and inappropriate assault. This case exemplifies how advances in forensic science can bring long-awaited resolution to cases once thought unsolvable. Though Atkinson can no longer face legal consequences, this resolution undoubtedly offers a degree of closure to Diana's family and the wider community. A man busy fishing spotted a car in the Mississippi River by chance. Little did he know the car was tied to a 1960s cold case. In August 2025, a 1963 metallic blue Buick Electra was recovered from the Mississippi River near Sartell, Minnesota, by the Stearns Benton County Sheriff's dive team. Human remains were found inside the vehicle. Brody Locketch, a fisherman from Watkins, Minnesota, was using a Garmin LiveScope sonar while fishing over the weekend with a friend when he spotted a car. Brody said when he caught the fish, "I turned the transducer around and boom, there it was just sitting on the bottom. It was 100% luck. If my buddy would not have caught that walleye, then we would have just kept on floating down and never would have found it." The investigators spent hours removing the car. The car's vehicle identification number matched the vehicle registered to Roy George Benn, a 59-year-old man from Sauk Rapids who vanished on September 25, 1967, after leaving the King's Supper Club while reportedly carrying a large sum of money. Roy was a businessman and owner of the St. Cloud Appliance Repair Service. His wife had passed away the year before. His disappearance was out of character, and his family believed that he would not have abandoned them. He was declared legally dead in 1975. The remains have been sent to the Midwest Medical Examiner's Office for identification and to determine the cause of death. The Benton County Sheriff's Office, in collaboration with other agencies, is leading the investigation. DNA from relatives had already been collected in hopes of solving the case. With new physical evidence in hand, investigative review investigators will re-examine all case files and clues. It took nearly 58 years after his disappearance, but Roy's case appears to finally be on the verge of resolution. For Roy's surviving family, This discovery could bring both closure and a renewed emotional chapter. 4 decades after 2 teenagers were attacked in their parked car in Northern California, the person responsible has finally been arrested and charged. On December 14, 1984, at around 10 to 11:25 p.m., 2 teenagers were parked on Mountain View Road near Bernie High School in Shasta County, California, when they were approached by another vehicle. 18-year-old Terrence Arndt, also known as Terry, and his date were then shot at with a .22 caliber rifle. Terry shielded his date from the bullets, and he was injured in the process. The attacker then inappropriately assaulted the young woman, and he then left the 2 teenagers to die. The female victim managed to drive to safety and summon help. Terry was then transported to an area hospital, but unfortunately died from his injuries. He was a star athlete at Bernie High School before enrolling at Shasta College in Redding, California. An extensive investigation followed with thousands of hours of casework. The detectives collected forensic evidence from the female victim's clothes. The case unfortunately quickly went cold. A significant lead emerged in 1995, more than a decade later, resulting in the arrest of Thomas Elmer Brewster, a Fall River Valley resident. However, DNA analysis of male DNA found on the victim's blouse did not match Brewster, leading to dismissal of charges. He was formally exonerated and released after nearly 2 years in custody. The DNA profile was entered into the combined DNA index system, but there were no matches to any known individuals. The case then went cold again for almost 3 decades. In 2024, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office revisited the case using forensic genetic genealogy. That led the police to a suspect identified as Roger Neil Schmidt Sr. 64-year-old Schmidt would have been 23 at the time of the crime. He also strongly resembled a sketch developed based on an account from the female victim. The police determined that Schmidt was currently living in Tucson, Arizona, but had lived in Bernie, California in 1984. On July 16, 2025, the detectives from the Shasta County Sheriff's Office traveled to the city to coordinate with the Tucson Police Department and obtain a search warrant. The police were able to collect a DNA sample from Schmidt and confirm that it matched the profile. The DNA was a match. A warrant was issued on July 18th. Schmidt was arrested the following day and was booked into the Pima County Jail on murder and inappropriate assault charges. He made his first court appearance on July 21st. He was in a wheelchair and using an oxygen tank. Schmidt is expected to be extradited to Shasta County. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. Sheriff Michael L. Johnson said that he hopes the arrest brings closure to the female victim and Terry's family. Johnson said, "The resolution to this case is a bit bittersweet for us. Although it is a monumental accomplishment for the investigators, for the agency, and the closure of having a suspect in custody, it does not negate the fact that there is a family and families that have been forever impacted and will forever live with the trauma and the aftermath that was left behind for them." His next scheduled court date is August 28th to set the date for his preliminary hearing. For now, Schmidt is being held with no bail.